good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you too. I've started the show really late.
Yeah, I figured that you were running into a few things.
I was getting my car booked in for paint. The front and back bumper are a complete mess, so just didn't think it would take us quite as long as it did, but there we go. Such is life. 2 minutes and we'll be live.
No problems. So, anything new for today, or just wait to see what comes?
I don't know. I haven't even had a chance to get my cup of coffee. Heartbreaking.
Go get your coffee. Go get your coffee.
At least I'm on time. That's the main.
Yeah.
Late for me means no pre-show, as opposed to actually late. So to the eyes of anyone watching, I'm absolutely on time, which is all that really matters.
So really, there's the actual show and the apparent show. Is that what you're saying? I think it was Flatzoid. You put up that video, that Orion space capsule hitting the ocean yesterday.
Who did?
Flatzoid, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a master beat. He did it wonderfully to a beautiful soundtrack as well. And he put the lines of where the apparent horizon and the actual horizon. It's worth a look, especially just to screen capture the lines towards the end.
Well, hopefully he'll show up and he'll do a shout out.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum, which you should definitely all join. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are currently joined, as this is a very late start, by 10th Man. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Nathan. Thank you.
Excellent. No pressure?
Oh, there was some pressure, all right. I think Spurs was on Fight the Flat Earth yesterday. I got a little notification, and I was busting up reading the comments. It's something when he's on our show, but it's even better when he's on their show.
Give me the lowdown. What was the general gist of it?
Oh, he just did the same thing that he was doing on our show. He just took it over there just to prove that it's temperature. There's no pressure. You can't measure pressure. And he drove the globetards nuts. The comment section went so wild. I just read comments. It was so funny. I took screenshots of comments. The comments were funny. It's just, this guy's the one. He can make a a Broadway play look pale compared to the great trolling he's doing right now on both sides.
I don't know. I kind of despair of Spurs a little bit, if I'm honest.
Well, he's either a great actor or he's certifiably nuts. One of two, but if he's both, it's very interesting.
Yeah, I said it on the last show, but Paige, who's in the chat, summed it up really nicely. You know, when she was explaining that he's just, I called it throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but basically, disbelieving everything. It's just kind of an extreme, way too extreme position for me. I can understand the sentiment, but it's definitely it's not what I would be doing, if I'm honest.
Well, I mean, a study of human nature rather than the intellect here. Why would he come on your show, get totally scorned, and then without any hesitation go on someone else's show, not adjust, not change, not research, not come back smarter, and just do the same thing? I mean, this is so obvious. He's trolling both sides.
I don't know. I can't speak to his motivation. I can only speak to his claims, and you know. I mean that's why I proceeded by saying the intellect, because we don't know the motivation, but we know the actions. Right on. Hey, Mind Warped, long time.
G'day. How are you?
Very well indeed. How are you?
Pretty good.
Well, shall I start the house questions since Mind Warp's here?
Yeah, that'd be good. We've got one person in the Discord server, but they're on server deafen. They've like deafened themselves, so they can't hear any of the questions. But there is a link in the info box, as stated in the intro. So if you do want to join, there is a Discord link below. Feel free to join if you want to answer any of the housekeeping questions. If not, it'll be rapid.
All right. Any signs of Earth curvature?
No signs of Earth curvature. Hey, Flatzoid, how you doing?
Negative.
Good to have you.
Good afternoon.
Hello. Any evidence of the distance to the sun? Hey, Arwin.
No evidence for the distance to the sun, Nathan.
No.
Just no.
Just no for Arwin. Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth base variety?
Just another no.
Yeah, exactly. Any signs of gas pressure?
Gas pressure what?
Just gas pressure.
Oh, right, you're just referring to Spurs, right? Just gas. Any evidence of gas pressure? Yeah, there's plenty of evidence of gas pressure. There's no evidence of gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container, though.
You can only sense the temperature, Nathan, right? You can only sense the temperature. You don't sense pressure, supposedly.
Let's change the subject. Any evidence of radius of the Earth, the R value?
No, sir. Sorry. No evidence of R.
No R. One day, maybe.
One day. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
In the Independence movie, the aliens come and drill for it, but that's the only place.
In the movie, what? They drill for what?
The Independence, the movie that they play here in the States every 4th of July with Will Smith, they had a resurgent one. The aliens come and they, with some kind of a plasma, whatever, they go through trying to get to the center of the Earth to take the energy from the core. So
I'm pretty sure that's the Star Trek movie.
No,
no. It's the resurgence. Watch it. It's
the resurgent version of Independence Day. Is that what you're saying? I haven't watched it.
Newer one. I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's called Resurgence, and it was actually in the first movie too, because they referenced the first movie.
One more.
But that's the only place it is. It's in Hollywood.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Nope. But we did that one, didn't we?
Let's establish it is in a location first.
Right,
we didn't do the gravity one, did we?
Say that again, 10th man.
Did we do the gravity question?
I think I did the sun twice instead of gravity.
Just to make sure. With sugar on top.
We've got a new guest in Discord. Hello, Earth-shaped investigator. Good to have you. Hello.
Any scientific evidence for gravity?
We don't need no gravity.
Don't need no gravy tea.
Nope. Nope. Nope.
So I'm hoping there's going to be a couple of interesting things over the weekend. So, well, I say over the weekend. One is going to be later on this evening. So Ranty's asked me to come on to do Q&A for a presentation that I didn't really do. So I did a shoddy version of a response to Tim Osman, mainly through lack of time. I say shoddy. It was about 8 minutes long, and it took me about an hour and a half to produce. I don't like working in that way. I prefer this, just do the live show, and that's how I like to do things. But that's not what Ranty wanted. So QE phones me up and he's like, "What are you up to?" I explained, and before I even played him my 8 minutes, he showed me his probably close to 8 hours, maybe even more, worth of work that he had done going through the 90 logical fallacies used by Tim Osman in his presentation on Anti-Flat Earth.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my God.
He averaged one fallacy a minute.
Holy shit.
Right.
How did he find the time to do that?
Well,
Seriously.
But basically, so he started showing me, and I went, right, sod this, I'm recording this. So I recorded it, and he went through all of them and explained it to me in the way only QE can. And about halfway through, I was like, Ranty's getting this. He's not in my presentation. I mean, I put my 2 pennyworth in where I felt appropriate, and the points that I had made in my response video, I added to QE's much more all-encompassing and adept representation of what Tim had presented. And I was like, this just blows mine out of the water. And I kind of think it's because Ranty had sort of said to him, I don't want every reply being from you, when QE had said, look, I'll just have a standing order in place. Everybody that comes on with a Globehead presentation, I'll rebut it regardless. And Ranty had kind of gone, I don't want that, and said no. So I think in the face of that, it's like bracing against it, he put his heart and soul into that debunking. You know what I mean? Really did it well. And to present to me, because he was explaining to me that he wasn't going to be doing it. He was kind of hinting that I would do his presentation. It's not. It's obviously a QE presentation, right? But I got it recorded and I submitted it to Ranty. I was already fired up to say, look, if you don't do this, it's like representative of about 10 or 11 hours, man hours, a couple of hours, if that, from me, and maybe 8 hours from QE. You've got to present it, regardless of your unwritten rule about not having QE do more than one presentation for some unknown reason. But I said, look, I'll do the Q&A. I don't mind doing that if you want me to be there and do the Q&A after. Obviously, I've had my 2 pennyworth in the presentation, and I'm more than happy to address any QA questions that you have from the chat. From what I understand, Tim Osman's already made it clear that he doesn't want to debate one-to-one on the subject, which is absolutely fine. That's his prerogative. It's not going to be scorn. I'm not going to pour scorn on that. That's his prerogative, right? So no worries. But I'll still, present the presentation, or Ranty will play it, as it were, and then I'll do the Q&A afterwards. But the main thing I wanted to do is support Ranty. He's put in a lot of effort in. He's taken it seriously. He's become a proper YouTuber overnight, and I really want to support him. So as much as I'm cursing and going, I don't want to do this presentation, you know what I mean? It's kind of I'm doing it because I want to help Ranty and want to make sure his show does have a consistent timetable and all the rest of it. But then in the face of that, even though I was showing willing and did produce something, QE did something a damn sight better and much more amusing and much more comprehensive than mine. So that's what will actually get played later on this evening, 6 PM UK time, on Ranty Flat Earth channel, and the show is called Ranty's Roundtable. So check it out, be here or be sphere. Also, if you're watching in the Nathan Oakley live audience, there's Ballbusters tomorrow. If you're watching this on the re-up, this actually happens just after Ballbusters finishes, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you're watching on the re-up on Nathan Oakley 1980, but if you're watching live, check out Ballbusters tomorrow. Again, to plug Ranty, who's absolutely on fire, as he always is at the moment, has found a YouTuber who did a very tentative presentation of what is, in my humble opinion, it's got a slight personal connection for me personally, but in spite of that, one of the most awesome flat earth proofs to date. And it's hard to gen it up without giving anything away, but definitely tune into Ballbusters on Saturday. If you're in the live audience now, you'll want to see what Ranty presents. Now, given that he put pressure on his response or aftermath, whatever he called it, roundtable, saying, "Oh, I think Nathan will be on tomorrow." And when I heard that, I was like, "You bastard! I've not got to do it now, haven't I?" So, in saying that, Ranty's definitely going to have an absolutely shit hot presentation for Ballbusters. There can be no doubt. Unless he's watching live, he's not even going to hear this, is he? Hopefully, he's watching.
Well, it's not like you're not putting pressure on him for Saturday, so it works good for both sides.
Exactly. If it's good for the goose, right? I'll put pressure on him to. I don't think he's got to do a whole heap. He's just got to present something that he's come across in a concise way with lots of cowbell, as QE puts it. Lots of stuff to back his assertions and credited sources and all the rest of it. And I already know he's got that, so it's just a question of formatting and presentation. And Ranty's good at presenting, so it will be good. I know it will. I'm supremely confident in Ranty. Better be good if you're watching, Ranty. Better be good.
Flatzoid's got some cowbell. He just posted a nice video.
Yeah, you mentioned just before we started the show, right? Hey, Flatzoid, can you hear us? Yeah, mate. Got something wicked. That's excellent, Flatzoid.
Sorry.
Good to hear it. What you got for us?
Well, it is in Master Bees if you want to show it. It's actually what Spurs showed yesterday.
What Spurs showed yesterday in regards to Red Rhetoric's crash landing of whatever the hell it was.
Yeah, but you did at the end. You put the lines where Nathan was asking to see the lines. So if you scroll towards the end, I think it's nice.
Is it called Oops No Curve?
Is it that?
Yes.
The rocket one?
Yes.
The rocket that
no curve.
lands in the ocean.
Do we need audio?
Yeah, he's got music in the audio, but
I'll leave it on low. Orion abort systems test.
yeah, it just shows it taken off. But if you scroll all the way towards the end, you'll see where Flatzoid put in the lines.
Alright, let's ditch the music, no offense. Okay, so he's put in the lines for the... Ah, yes, I see. Really remember to share it with the Hangout before I play it so I can get some running commentary. Let's see where the capsule hits. You see it hits on the apparent horizon and not behind a curve. Thank you, Dredge Rhetoric. Right, I'll share that. No bother.
I just put it in the.
Oh, did you already do it? Spam it a little bit if you would. Brilliant, thank you, Arwin. Of course, I forget you're a mod here, aren't you, in this second channel?
Uh-huh.
So you can spam your link to your show.
No. Mostly to ban people that ask if I could please ban them. That's it.
Don't ban anybody.
No, I unban them after that.
Oh, right, okay.
If they ask me to be banned, then yeah.
Oh, they say, oh, go on then, ban me then, Arwin. And you go, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And then unban them.
Mm-hmm.
All it does is it removes all their comments, though. So any conversation that they might have had that was interesting between them and someone else suddenly makes no sense because the person that's talking to them's comments still appear, but the chat troll doesn't. So I'm really hesitant, even when you time out. I don't think it gets rid of all of it with time out.
But it's usually just sock trolls that come in and ask it.
Yeah.
For example, Lottie might feel very seduced right now. But I'm not gonna give him the satisfaction.
I see. So what was up on the early bird then? Anything exciting?
Just a lot of general talk about. Yeah, I had a long complaint about Spurs schemo. So, but that's kind of obvious, I think.
I mean, yeah, we're all of the same opinion, I think, Arwin.
So I did kind of like a long-winded analysis of it. That's it.
Did you hear what Adam said yesterday about it? Because he was so concise and eloquent in his presentation of how Spurs is presenting his idea and how it's nonsense. So if check out yesterday's show, I think it was 891. But yeah, Adam just laid it out really well. When he came, when he arrived on the show, you know, when you hear that like angel sound in your head, like ah, oh great, Adam's here. He'll save us from this nonsense, and he did. So big shout out to Iron Realm Media again. If you're watching live tonight, 10:30 p.m. UK time, Iron Realm Media. They've got Chocolate saying on, so yeah, definitely be here or be sphere.
Yep. No, I missed the last part of the debates because my internet connection just died on me all of a sudden, right in the middle of the hangout. So
really good. It's really good at the moment. There's like people are actually keeping to schedule. So you've got you and I who both run from. I'll just do it in UK time, so this doesn't take 20 minutes. But we've got you at 1 p.m. and then Flat Earth debate at 2 p.m. and then on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday you've got Ranty's Round Table at 6 p.m. and then again you've got me at 10 p.m. with the after show. So there's like a nice little Flat Earth timetable that runs pretty consistently throughout the week, you know, with a spattering of consistent ranty round tables and a daily live show from you. So you've got loads of stuff to watch every single day. There's something published at the same time consistently. You know, 2 p.m. for me and 10 p.m. for me, 1 p.m. for you, and then every other day, if you want to look at it that way, Ranty does 6 p.m. So I'm hoping that more other people with similar, hey Jose, similar stuff will do.
Nathan, why do you blog me in your Nathan Oakley channel? Because I spam my show. Why?
Right.
I didn't like that.
We had
if
this
you were
conversation.
blocked, how could you be in here?
No, he asked why he was blocked in the live stream. Because I asked you really politely not to come in, slag me off and spam your show link, and then you ignored me and carried on doing it.
Come on, but yeah, I came in last time and you said you were going to unblock me. You lied to me?
You're not blocked on the main channel.
No, in this channel, Nathan Oakley, secondary channel.
Yeah, I watch this channel, so I have to deal with people like you when you just, you know, slagging me off, and it's like, I don't want to deal
People
with that.
like me, come on.
Yeah, I don't have to deal with that. I'll ban people on this channel. That's why I've got moderators. Ranty and Arwin are now both moderators on this channel, mainly because I watch it. So I don't want to deal with that nonsense.
In this little announcement you made with Ranty, Ranty, I like the show. I like the format.
I like it too.
You left 1 hour. There's one empty hour after the early bird show. I mean, there's in the second hour after your second show. What is people gonna watch?
For an hour. Are you scheduled then, Jose? I'll plug you if that's what you're asking for.
I am running by that time. I finish by the time the Ranty starts the show, for real.
Okay, so are you actually scheduled to start at a particular time?
I'm usually scheduled 1 hour after the early bird show, so we actually overlap for the first hour of your show. I didn't do it on purpose, but I like 2 or 3 hour show, so it's because of my work schedule time. It's easier for me to do it 1 hour after the early bird show.
So what you're saying is you've come on to plug a show that runs at exactly the same time as my show.
I'm telling you, after your second show ends, there's one show, 1 hour gap. People is not going to wait 1 hour until the Ranty show. They say, what are we going to do for an hour? So Jose is running his show back then, you know? After your show ends, after your second show ends. That's what I mean.
Oh, right.
Good for you.
I don't do the second show anymore, actually, Jose.
Really?
Well, on this channel I do, but it goes out live and gets turned off. So the second show on this channel just goes out on Sunday to a much bigger audience. But during the week now, there's just one show a day, 2 till 3. And like I say, on a Thursday and Friday, I do pre-records for different days, but they don't really count. They get turned off. So yeah, one show a day.
Like we really don't. Yeah, it really doesn't hurt you because then my show go after yours, pretty much.
Well, at the same time, but but there we go. But that, you know, it doesn't matter.
No, because like right now I'm not. You know, like right now when you when you finish, you still go like 2 hours.
I would plug you, Jose. If you said I was running my show at 3 p.m. UK time, in other words, my show finishes, your show starts, I'd plug that, because it means that you've got Early Bird, Flat Earth Debate, Jose JG Gonzalez, and then Ranty Flat Earth, and then another after show at 10 p.m. There's like a proper schedule. You know, it's good that you're speaking in this way, Jose. This is much more like it. You know, because our shows complement each other in many ways. I tried to have this conversation with you when you set up, but you weren't having a bar of it. You just wanted to knock the competition, which doesn't help you. But I'm glad your attitude seems to have changed a bit.
Yeah, no problem. No, I was typing in the chat like, ban me please, just for the hell of it, because I was listening why Arwin be banning people because they asked for, and then I go like, no, I'm banned.
Type something in chat and I'll do it.
No, but I'm already banned. Oh, damn it.
Yeah. Either way, I don't. The main channel, I just know nobody's banned. There are no moderators and there's nobody banned.
Right. No, but no, I just came into
But here,
shout out and say hi. And Ranty did really good. I really did send one was Timmy Osman presentation yesterday or 2 days ago. I started my show late that day, and when I realized I got a notification from Ranty, I said, dude, everybody are going to shut down the show in 30 seconds. Ranty's on, everybody run over there. And he had like 100 people watching at no time, like before the show starts. And everybody saying like, Jose, send me. But it was good because it was fun. And Ranty gave me a shout out. That's all I wanted. I said, just give me a shout out, Ranty. And he did it, so that was good. I'm happy. Little support. I support content creators.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear it, Jose. Glad you've had a bit of an attitude change.
Yeah. It's all good. Alright, I'm getting out of here. I gotta do good stuff. Thank you guys. I'm out.
Yeah. Get out of here, bloody glowbed. Shout out to Jose.
His sound sucked.
Yes, that was pretty appalling. But there we go, I don't mind. I knew he wasn't going to hang around for very long. Jose. Oh, right, it's Cigar Face. I thought it was Jose.
Nah, he's getting all disgusting. First called him a rapist, and now he's talking all pervy.
Yeah, the chat is pure poison. It's a cesspit.
It kind of is.
It is. It's just total cesspit. There's occasional roses growing out of shit in the chat. Like Paula, for instance. A beautiful rose growing out of the shit that is this chat feed. Should really check on Discord. There's probably a whole bunch of people going, I want to be arguing with you. No. There is Darren, though. How you doing, Darren? Good to have you.
Good afternoon. How are you all doing?
Very well. Good to have you. Betty, please, Spurs is near.
I'm Brenda. What a day. What a day.
Yeah, we were having a chat about Brenda yesterday, actually, and he's probably going to hate me now because I'm going to have to throw him under the bus a little bit. He wanted to ban Brenda from the Discord server, and the owner of the Discord server was like, no, I don't want to ban Brenda, or I'll think. She was much more subtle about it. I'll think about it, or we'll consider that at a later stage, or words to that effect. And Kiwi was asking my opinion, and I was like, well, actually, I agree. You know, she's a useful idiot. She's a useful idiot to shill for our cause. That's what she's doing. You know, only a couple of days ago, she was essentially making an argument that the sky is a container because there's a logical inference that I won't draw. I just leave it for the audience to draw and won't state it overtly. So she stated it for me. It's like, wicked. Thank you, Brenda. Lovely to have you. He was ace.
There's no grounding in anything that comes out of her. She can flip-flop on anything on the spot and doesn't even care, doesn't even take notice of it. I don't know. I think Brenda is severely feeble-minded as to sensibility. Once you put some pressure on there, I think that, yeah, she can formulate somewhat coherent-sounding thought patterns, structures, but as soon as you start to put some pressure on her, she just goes all over the place, loses track very easily without actually taking notice that that's happening. It's just totally embarrassing. I don't know, it's just a waste of everyone's time, really.
It's the fact that it wastes our time and doesn't allow us to actually talk about, you know, the issues at hand.
I don't know. Yeah, on a regular basis, Brenda just brings out new things that she just starts to draw in doubt for no good reason, or starts to deny just to wrench up the works, just to block the conversation from continuing. And she does that regularly now. Just nonsensical statements in the middle of nowhere, claims like, oh, this can't work, that can't work. Clearly only to obstruct the conversation and not to actually make a point.
Exactly. Hit the nail on the head. I think Nathan should change his channel name from what it is to arguments. Not a debate, just arguments.
Is me thinking if I keep a bit quieter, the conversation will flow a bit better. But shout out to theflatearthchannel.com. Is it me or does Brenda sat? No need, right? No, even from the super chat, no need for tranny bashing here. Just attack her arguments. That's all that matters. You know, her claiming that the necessary antecedent for a sky container is real. Just pay attention to that stuff. Don't pay attention to her gender identity. It is entirely irrelevant to the argument. But thank you for the super chat. Yeah, it's something. Shout out to Anthony Riley. He makes a point of that, you know, quite frequently. That he's not. I mean, some could argue that by pointing out that he doesn't do it, he's inadvertently doing it. But, you know, he'll point out that he's only attacking her on her arguments. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter about anything else. Her political bias, her gender, none of it matters.
Nathan, I know you don't subscribe to NASA, but did you see the test video yesterday of the crew capsule system?
Nope. But feel free to tell me all about it. Or is this what Red Frederick's presented? Is that what we were looking at yesterday?
Yeah.
Oh well, then yes.
No.
No. Yeah.
No, it was a different. It was a different one. They did the another test yesterday without a parachute. But this mission specialist was talking after, saying that they had to add ballast to the crew capsule, because the acceleration on it is so phenomenal that it basically killed the astronauts. So they ended up adding 500,000 pounds of ballast, 50 tons, just under 50 tons of ballast. You know, how does that represent astronauts?
How does it represent astronauts?
I think he's referring
well,
to
they
the
didn't
weight.
actually have any.
Go on.
They didn't have astronauts in it, so they had to add false ballast to represent, you know, its crew and supplies, I would imagine. So they added nearly 50 tons of
I understand what you're saying, but I don't see the significance, or, you know, what you have to lay it out for me. I don't understand why you're telling me this.
Well, because it just proves that they're not actually doing anything, you know, really scientific. They're not actually going to be launching people up into space, obviously, because space isn't available to go to. But it's just the nonsensical patheticness that they keep coming out with. You know, just giving out these random figures, you know, and it's just beyond. The lies are just so see-through. It's unbelievable.
I think what he's trying to say, if I'm hearing him, Nathan, is a ton in, I think it's 2,000 pounds. A ton is 2,000 pounds. So if they added 50 tons, that's 100,000 pounds. You're going to add that to the top of a spacecraft, and that's supposed to represent people and some supplies. That's a bit over.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That's not the right weight ratio if you're going to do an actual comparison of, you know, 3 or 4 astronauts plus food and all that. That's way too much.
Exactly. And the other comical argument that they gave at the end of it was that they've got 3 tests. They've done the first one, the second one was yesterday, and the third one is actually carrying humans. And they haven't even tested the parachute landing system yet for the abort system. So the first time they're going to be able to test that is actually when there's human beings on board.
Been joined by a new guest. So, hello, is it News Meltdown?
Hey, Nathan. Yes, this is Ben Adams, actually. That's the brand of my channel, becauseado.com. How are you?
Hello, Ben. Good to have you.
All good? We got interrupted last time. My apologies. Somebody called me and it booted me off the Discord, and then as soon as I reconnected, apparently a lot of people had left already. So I didn't rage quit because we weren't even arguing. So
I don't think anybody thought you had, to be honest.
Fair enough.
No, it's a good conversation
you wish
yesterday.
to pick up the discussion where we left it? Sorry.
Yeah, by all means, it was a good conversation yesterday.
Yeah, you were discussing the fact that a model could not be used to represent reality.
Right.
That was your contention, if I remember well.
Well, to assert that the model represents reality is a reification fallacy, in essence.
Please explain to me this reification fallacy. So I understand that it's like res re in Latin, the thing. So you thingify something. That's what you mean.
Yeah, it's called hypostasization, and it's essentially misplaced concretedness. Concretedness being reality, misplaced being not correct. So misplaced concretedness, making something which is not concrete into something concrete, in this case a model. So reality is reality, a model is a model, but when you say it represents your reality, it doesn't. It's misplaced concretedness.
Well, it tends to represent reality. It's striving to represent reality as much as possible, and that is the reason it stays falsifiable. So you were right to a certain extent that falsifiability, it's embedded in an experiment and in an hypothesis, but in as much it's still falsifiable if you add to that model so that to come and complete it or contradict the parameters. You can have parameters that come and add a minus in front of a parenthesis and turn everything upside down. See what I mean? I mean, I think I understand where you guys are coming from, because math has been misused, modeling has been misused, but you guys are, I think, focusing on this side of science, which has absolutely, totally been hijacked, which is cosmology, theoretical physics, and so on. But modeling is useful in certain instances, and if we're talking about trying to figure out a cosmology or a cosmogony for Earth, we cannot do without modeling, because we cannot actually go and check ourselves.
But you're talking about the monitoring of cycles. in terms of what happens in the sky.
The monitoring of cycles, as
Yeah.
in?
Yeah.
No, in understanding the mechanics, understanding not only the provision of the mechanics, which is something we've been doing with astrolabes for a long time, but understanding the nature of the mechanics itself.
But it can't give you that. A model can't give you that.
But it can give you certain, for instance, it can give you marginal reaction. So it can give you marginal reaction if you make like your independent variable. If you make your variable tend to 0 or tend to the infinite, you can see marginal behaviors, and that's something you can draw statistical power from. That's how you say that your independent variable is 100% proof. And sometimes you don't have 100% proof. Sometimes you've got tendencies, trends towards a certain thing, towards 0 or towards the infinite. That's how we manage to determine that Big Bang is impossible, really. Because
you're talking about correlation.
It tends to 0.
You're talking about correlation, though. When you're trying to understand how something works, you're talking about causation as opposed to correlation. And in the case of a model, especially on the topic that we talk about in this particular instance, the shape of the Earth, you're not going to be able to have every single variable modeled. That's just impossible.
I know. That's the thing. That's why it's up to you, and it's up to your imagination, really, to build a model that is as likely as possible to yield the parameters that are actually not wrong enough to give you wrong results. That's how I can put it. But yes, indeed, it's not something you come and wing it. A model. It's something. Sometimes it takes 50 years to build something decent. They've spent 70 years on a model, which makes no sense, Nathan. No matter what you come up with, it's not going to be as bad as relativity and the globe. I'm telling you this much. You can go for your dough. It doesn't matter.
Sure, but it's the assertions that come along with the models that are the problem. I'm sure we said on the last show, go forth and model. Be my guest. You know,
but there is a huge difference between us trying to rebuild the model from scratch, knowing that the parameters we've been given so far were wrong. And you know where I'm really, really pissed off personally is that I spent most of my life thinking in the wrong model, and the model they were offering was absolutely wrong from inception. Now the model we have, it's more congruent with reality. And if you go past the shape of the Earth, because I'm past the shape of the Earth now, I'm not discussing distance, I'm not discussing Coriolis anymore, I'm not discussing sun anymore, because I've got experiments on Earth which reflect what's going on in the sky.
Like
and it's more than just the flatness of Earth that I'm trying to determine. It's the interaction between the sky and what's below it, because we don't know anything about what's below it, for instance.
Sure. I mean, like I say,
more advanced stuff.
People are more than, you know. It's not for me to stop people going out there and modelling stuff. You know, I'm not gonna. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying that to assert that it is our reality in any way or a representation is just false. It just isn't. Especially when it's used to assert causation, which it is in this debate. So the model of Earth is used to assert a cause of an occurrence we see. You know, boat going over the horizon, cause, Earth curve. Well, that's a model. Well, that's where the problem lies, the assertions that come along thereafter.
But, okay, the thing is that, you know, there is a fundamental approach to what you are saying, because you've been bitten once, and obviously you're now shy about using math and modeling, because it's been totally misused and it's been misleading us for many years. But if you need to build anything with wood, and if you need to build a frame, you measure, you get a value. You take that value, you multiply it, and according to the calculation you're going to make, you're going to insert those values in a model. If you want to make a frame, you're going to multiply it by 4, because you need 4 bits the same, you know, to make a frame. That's a very simple model, but that's a modeling of reality, and it does reflect reality. Because the model is simple, you're able to embrace all the parameters at the time, and therefore not make any mistake. You've got a piece of 10 centimeters, you need 4, it's going to be 40 bits. It's going to be 40 centimeters. You go to Wix, you buy your bit according to the length you need. You've modeled. You haven't brought all the way to Wix your piece of wood. You've just taken the measurement at home. You modeled it on a piece of paper with a simple calculation. You went to Wix, you bought your piece of wood. You've been working on the basis of a model.
Yeah, I'd agree, but that's engineering. I mean, the debate that we are in is based on the physical
What do you
and
mean it's
natural
engineering?
world.
It's
So-
modeling. No matter what you.
So
It's
we're
modeling.
talking
That's-
about the
that's-
physical. We're talking about the physical and natural world, and that is beyond the capabilities of modeling. You can't model it all, and that's what we're talking about, all of it. So that's beyond the capabilities.
Well, you don't need
of
to
a
model all. You don't need to model all. You need to model the parameters which are the one that have an incidence on the results.
Okay.
Maybe the color of the butterfly will not have an impact, but the structure of his wings on how it reacts to electrostatics will. So we might not, and then you realize that the color does, because you thought it wasn't, and then it did. It does. But by enriching your model as you go forward, you are able to draw patterns and at least to have a generic view on how things behave. I mean, mathematics can help, and it can be misused. It's like a gun. You can shoot an innocent person, you can rob a family, or you can defend the family with the same gun. I see what I mean.
Sure, but you're talking about language and descriptions, and as I keep saying, the problem isn't people describing things. If you want to use a model to try and describe something, that's perfectly reasonable. The assertions that come after are that it is where we live, it's the cause of things. You know, the Earth curve model is what's causing a boat to go over the horizon. That's the problem. And in this particular realm, we're not talking about building things. We're talking about the natural world. So while you're right, modelling can be extremely useful to produce things, that's not what we're discussing. We're discussing the natural world.
Yeah, but then we need also to try to understand a bit better what's natural. So in your view, electricity is natural or not?
Yeah, you can observe electricity naturally occurring in nature. Absolutely.
Well, electricity is part of the model, and honestly, I think that, and that's a criticism, you take it the way you want, but I think that the exposure you have, and after 5 years, always talk about the same things, and you could actually use your exposure to actually draw people that are interested in progressing models. And I'm not saying you need to stop what you're doing, but why don't you do an extra show where people would come and brainstorm about models without being hindered by a necessity of proving stuff empirically immediately? Just, building mental concepts and throwing them against some objections. It's very interesting. When I put my semi-model on Simon Dan's, I had a lot of objection on electrostatics, and it makes you progress because you need to handle the objection. You're a salesman, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Every objection handling is a growth in the way you pitch your model.
But I'm only interested in reality, not how well people can adapt a model based on criticism. I mean, I literally couldn't care less.
Something to this?
Go ahead, 10th man.
Yeah, I think the caller brings up a good point. So it made me go research why the car companies make clay models of cars of real size when they have all the computer capabilities that they do. And I'm reading this article here, and the guy says, and this is the Chris Sevenson, director of design for Ford's North and South American operations, told Wall Street Journal, real short quote, we always come back to clay. The problem is, he says, digital projections can't accurately show how light will play on the car's surface. You can't replicate the sun. So I think what, Nathan, you're saying about the natural world, these models that these guys do, they assign cause and effect, but it's not a real situation. And that's what you're bringing out.
Well, in the case of that specific modeling, it's because all they need is the incidence of the air on the carcass of the car. They don't need the valve to be in place. They don't need the brakes to be in place. All they need is the flow of air on the surface of the car. That's why they model it with clay. And that's a reduction of the parameters.
He's not talking about air. He's talking about how the sun reflects off the surface, the curves, the shape.
But yeah, but that they need the shape. They don't need the valve to be in place. They don't need the turbo to be in place. They don't need the seat belts to be in place to have that happening. That's why it's not reduced.
That's not the point. The point is the outside exterior of the car made to the real car with a foam base, and then clay. It says here that the clay people make over 100,000 a year just so they can see how the sun reflects off the car.
I agree with you, but it's perfect. Because I'm not denying it. What's the point? They're modeling. They're
Well,
modeling their car for their specific use.
my point is self-evident.
It's a model. It's a model of the car, the clay car, isn't it?
My point is self-evident because if they could get away with a computer-generated model, they wouldn't have to pay someone $100,000 a year to make a real clay model.
Okay, but I didn't speak specifically of a computer-generated model. I talked about modeling in general.
Well, yeah, but in these days, how do people model? Do people play with Play-Doh?
If you have to, yeah. My idea was to actually buy a sphere made of metal and figure out which is which galvanic cell is the most close to the chemistry of Earth, and then chuck one into the other and see what happens. Maybe I'll model
water curving. Model water curving.
Go ahead.
You're just talking at cross purposes, so you know there's a big difference between engineering and scientific discovery. And science is interested in the natural world. Engineering is interested in production, profit, shareholders. It's a very different realm.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
That's it. It's just they're very different things. You know, yes, you can model. Yes, it can be applied usefully. The same applies to maths in terms of its description of things. But that's not what we discuss in this subject. In this subject, we're discussing our reality, the natural world. It falls definitely in the realm of science rather than engineering.
You know what? I've got a hard time to follow your divisions because engineering is applied science.
Applied science. So, yeah. So yes, absolutely.
Well,
scientific discovery will drive engineering and technology. Absolutely correct. But it's the science that's been through the method of science and the discoveries thereafter that then go out into the world and get applied. You know, it's the same with things like quantum mechanics. It doesn't appear useful until you get computing. It doesn't seem like they've discovered anything until it's actually applied.
But I agree with you on that one.
But the application of a scientific discovery is not science.
Yeah. Yes. You know what? I think the problem is fundamentally terminology. Because even in science, you've got empirical science and theoretical science. You've got life science and you've got science in general. You've got scientific method and then you've got the generic science that the media uses. I am still not over the theory bit, to be quite honest with you.
Well, in this context, we're only talking about one particular science, natural science, because that's what we're talking about, the physical and natural world. So in terms of the categorization, as much as there are ultimately many different definitions, when we're in context of the world, which we definitely are, it's definitely natural science that we're dealing with.
Okay, but then what's the implication on the line of thoughts you use then, this division between natural science and non-natural science? Because the engineering being an application of natural science, I mean, you might not find the lever in the same way in nature, but if you look at the way a leg of a spider works, Ben, there is a lever and there is hydraulics involved. So the hydraulics you've got in a crane can be compared to the hydraulics you've got in the leg of a spider, and to a certain extent, you can pretty much report everything to the natural world. With the huge difference is that the natural world is so complex that you have a hard time embracing the full complexity of a natural complex of a cell. I mean, even DNA, we do DNA analysis, we understand the nucleotides, we understand the translation process, we understand the protein creation, but we cannot generate a model which is rich enough. We don't have the computers to generate, to calculate the amount of points we should need to calculate in order to be able to reproduce the creation of proteins, or to do what's called the reverse transcriptase, basically passing from a protein back into.
Right. Well, it's back to the same thing I've said several times. It's a difference between discovery and application. So the application of the applied sciences to assert cause is a bastardization of actual science. The two are
Say that again for me, Nathan, please, because it cut for a while. Say again.
So, the two are intrinsically linked. Yes, you can apply the discoveries that have been through the scientific method and benefit humanity with technology through applied science. But that doesn't change the point that you're making. Infinite complexity has borne out a method that can reduce that complexity down to its constituent components, isolate things that that you don't want to have any interference or hold them constant, and vary a single presumed cause of an effect. And based on the results, you can then build theory based on multiple applications, because obviously with such mass complexity to life in general, you've got to have a method that can give you an empirical result so that you can be dogged in terms of your assertions going forward and the presumptions that might be made based on an adherence to that method. So if you're trying to figure out something that you don't necessarily have an answer to, but there is a theory, a scientific theory in place, you can take the information from it knowing that it's been validated empirically. And when we're talking about causal relationships, that's what we want. So we have two factors in this discussion. One, we're dealing with the natural world, natural science. Two, we want the assertions made on our side to be empirical. Now, while I appreciate that people out there may want to speculate based on a correlation offered to them by a model with limited input, but that's not science, and that's what I'm interested in.
But I don't think we say two different things, because when you reduce reality to the parameters you want to control and vary and observe and correlate the variation between the variable and its result, you are modeling, because you are reducing reality to a set of parameters you can control in an experiment. That's exactly what modeling is. It doesn't have to be a computer simulation. It doesn't have to be a calculation. It can simply be a piece of wood modeling something else, which is of bigger magnitude.
Sure, but
just to see the behavior of.
But the key word you used, the key word you used was correlate, and that's not what science does. It's not looking for correlation. It's looking for causation, and it wants to empirically validate a cause.
That's in the queue of yes, but in the queue of your experiment after you finish setting up your experiment. But in order to set up your experiment, you will have to correlate things which can mimic the observation
you
have of
That's
nature.
Wrong. That's incorrect.
Something controllable.
That's incorrect. A hypothesis is merely a supposition, that which you suppose.
Yes, but your supposition will have to come from a correlation between one and the other thing. No, you can't just suppose in the dark. When you suppose, you will correlate two elements which have resemblance and see if they behave in the same way. I mean, when I translate, and actually I've got the reference to the Bible I was talking about.
Before you do, there's no reference to this in the method. That which you presume is the cause of an effect merely needs to be validated or invalidated. Now, if you are a bonehead, I'm not talking to you, but the person who's deciding that they want to try and figure out the cause of an effect, if they are a bonehead and they can't logically come to a reasonable supposition for the hypothesis, then ultimately all they will do upon experimentation is invalidate their hypothesis. But there's no stipulation in that regard. The only stipulation is...
I'm not saying it's... fair enough, I'm not saying it's a stipulation, and bear in mind that we can perfect the methodology, and that I am persuaded that we are living a drift of meaning in terms of theory. And we can go back to etymology and whatever. But no, I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, like I say, a scientific theory is based on the application of the scientific method. So your theory of plant growth is going to be based on causal relationship established through systematic experimentation. And once you've got one down-pegged empirical result of a cause, you can move on to the next thing. It might be that one of your things that you've held constant also has a variant on the overall theory. But you would have to validate each individual step through systematic experimentation based on a supposition of cause. And as I say, it doesn't matter if you're a complete bonehead and you just don't pick the right cause. Well, that doesn't make you a bonehead. It just means you haven't identified the cause. And it means you need to go on to actually validate that which you assume the cause. If you base models on suppositions, you've not validated any of the suppositions. That's where models fall down. That's why they are pseudoscience. And with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley live stream, then unfortunately this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who have tuned in, smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to all of today's debating panel for making this debate possible. Stay tuned if you're watching on the Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering stream. Check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum if you need to keep yourself occupied after the live stream is over. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Hello?
Hello?
Anyone?
Hello? Anybody there?
Boom!
What happened?
That's just the end of the live show.
Oh man!
To quote Hillary Clinton.
Good conversation.
Having a full-time job in chat.
I see you monitoring the chat there, Arwin. You're taking this new moderating role very seriously.
Yeah, it's like a new tolerance level. I'm basically only weeding out the very obvious sock trolls and not just the trollish people, which are the abundance of them, because then there would be nobody left.
Just out of interest, can you tell that I've
found a balance?
Can you tell that I've bitten my tongue and I'm speaking with a slight lisp? Is that really noticeable? Just out of interest.
What do you mean?
Don't really know.
You're in a rat house coming to the outside, yeah. We've been noticing that for years. Everybody knows you're a lizard.
No, I bit my tongue and now I'm speaking with a slight lisp, that's all.
No. Can't hear it.
I haven't noticed anything.
You'll do good in Castilian Spanish.
You're so kind. I'm very grateful to you all. If it's not noticeable, then I'll just carry on as normal.
Now it's noticeable indeed. But Nathan, before I forget, listen, the correlation bit, I mean, when you get to your experiment, and the biggest difficulty is building a sound experiment, because like you said, when your experiment goes wrong, you've falsified your hypothesis. That's building your experiment that you need to use correlation and imagination to find out the best way to mimic what you're actually trying to reproduce in a reduced set of parameters.
It's wrong. No, that's incorrect. So the only presupposition, supposition, the only assumption comes when you formulate the hypothesis. That's the only bit that requires any imagination whatsoever. And it's not been validated. So at that point, if you're like, well, I'm going to create a model, well, all you're doing is creating a model based on a supposition. Now, it might be that your supposition's right. Might be. But ultimately speaking, when you've got a whole bunch of suppositions bundled together in a model, at best you'll get a correlation between what your reality, in this instance, is presenting you and what the model says should occur. It's never going to give you reality. That's why you have this method. And it's not easy. It's very narrow. It's very specific. It's really hard to adhere to when you get down to it. But if you do, you've then got something to work with, an empirical result.
But I think it's a bit of a fallacy to think that's the only path.
Nobody said that.
The truth.
No.
Well, listen, you know what?
Nobody said that. Nobody said that. Nobody says it's the only method. So, hold on 1 second. Got to remember to unmute that Skype line. Nobody is saying it's the only method. It's only adjudicating. It's only adjudicating, if you could listen, it's only adjudicating cause and effect relationships. That's its function. What is questions? Well, they fall outside of science, and there's plenty of them, and there's plenty of methods to answer those questions. But cause and effect questions, those are answered within that method. So it's extremely narrow, but nobody is saying it's the only method. So when we see, we chuckle, John and I, hey John, when we see people in the comments that are saying, what's your independent variable? And the question and the context of the question isn't based in science.
I know.
Yeah, it's not contextual.
you have a great impact at linguistic level because you're building up a vocabulary people didn't have, and they can actually now they have the tools to fight those nonsense argumentator on the globing side. But at the same time, you've also built a bit of an army of NPCs. I've noticed that.
Well, yeah, there's an analogy again that QE uses in terms of some of the people that pick up upon part of the information that's coming out of this show, and they'll take that information and run with it without understanding necessarily the base premise. So, for example, I've just detailed that cause and effect is what scientific method is adjudicating, and you'll see somebody that's asking for an independent variable for something that's not a cause and effect relationship, and it's because they've heard someone on the show go, "What's your independent variable?" and seen that it's had a really great outcome, i.e. the person hasn't had one and they've been asserting science, but they haven't picked up on that detail. So it's not just as simple as saying, "Oh well, you must apply science," because you hear that and go, "Oh, that must be the arbiter of everything then, scientific method answers all questions." Well, no, it's really narrow.
Let me try to put some perspective on what you say, because you're far from being wrong. You're right. That's the scientific method. But you listen to this two different approaches. You know how to define an ensemble of numbers in mathematics. We've all learned that. You've got two essential ways of defining an ensemble, a field of numbers. You can either define in extension, meaning if you say the natural numbers is all the numbers that you start at minus infinite and you start counting from minus infinite all the way to zero, and then from zero all the way to plus infinite. You can see by yourself that the analytical way of defining such a huge field is impossible. You need to use a comprehensive way, which is to say this is all the numbers from minus infinite to plus infinite. And by doing that, I'm comprehensive. By trying the analytical way, I am not comprehensive. I can never be, by definition, intrinsically. So when you use an analytical method on such a big system as Earth and as the cosmos, because we haven't got access, and when I say cosmos, I'm not saying Star Trek 10,000 billions. In my view, we are enclosed in the sphere, actually, because that could be the only explanation. But anyway, you see what I mean? The synthetic approach, the thing of taking everything in its ensemble and see what would be the most organic resemblance could actually get us a couple of steps further before we even start setting up an experiment. Because we will have a contextualized experiment that also can prevent the kind of variable I was talking about, which is the killer, the deal breaker, the minus in front of your parentheses. That turns everything upside down. So let me tell you this much. I've been working and I'm not a scientific background, but due to the fact that I speak the languages and I've got certain backgrounds, I've been working in several verticals of science, and I don't want to get very specific. But I can tell you that the main problem of science, it's verticality, and it's analytical, it's obsession with analytical instead of thinking synthetically. There is no holistic 360 approach to science in any field. Even within genetics, let's say, there are guys that have been looking at one gene of one very specific mouse for all their life. And they don't talk to each other. They don't even have the time to see what each other does. The literature is just so rich, we cannot just figure out anything. It would be really the case to apply artificial intelligence just to read through the literature, just to be able to have a look at the literature, because there's so much it's impossible to read. It's like the laws, can't read all the laws.
What, do you think that hasn't happened before?
Hold on, there's quite a lot to address there. So the first problem is that you're describing things that are conceptual only. So in a language, you can describe things that aren't physically possible. So you used infinite. Well, that's not a concept that's real. That's only described.
I was talking about a mathematical field.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
The real numbers.
That's where many of the models that we are presented with are based. That's their
That was an example.
Language.
That was an example of the definition, the type of definition you can use, and how effective the definition is. The comprehensive definition of such a field, which indeed doesn't exist in reality, can only be achieved with a comprehensive approach. Because there are so many unknown, we don't even know if the infinite exists, but it's beyond the point. The fact is that if you try to determine every point, and in between 0 and 1, you've got an infinite points, you know that as well. So you won't be able to define in an analytical way a complex system or a complex field.
But just being able to have infinite numbers in terms of the crunching ability of a computer doesn't mean that you can in any way replicate infinite complexity. The only way to establish how that actually is functioning, the effects that are produced, is to apply a much more simplistic method. Simplistic in regards to the overall complexity of functionality that a computer can provide versus the simplistic method of just simply isolating all the different variables that you don't want to have any effect and varying and manipulating a single thing to cause it. So no matter how good your number cruncher is, it's never going to be empirical when you're asking it a question. It's just going to analyse data. But that's not giving you empiricism.
No, fair enough.
But it's back to this. That's all we want. The other point you raised was about the people in science not talking to each other after looking at something for a very long time. Number one, who cares? If somebody's been studying something for a long period of time, science is merely a method, and the application thereof gives you an empirical outcome. And that is the bit that I want. That's the bit that I need. That's the bit that will drive your applied sciences, not the guy looking at something for an eternity.
I don't agree with you, Nathan. I don't agree with you because your view.
It's not a case of agree or disagree. Hi, it's Mr. No Social Graces. This isn't. We're not talking about our favorite ice creams. It either follows the scientific method or it doesn't. Simple. End of story.
Can I finish my sentence? That was indeed very rude. And if I say I disagree, I'm about to say why and how.
I don't care what you think is rude or not. I'm tired of listening to you.
No?
I don't really care. Obviously. I'm tired of you freaking monologuing over nonsense. Right?
That's a great attitude. That's a great attitude, which shows that you're open-minded and you will be progressive.
You're dancing all over the subject.
You've been saying the same thing for 5 years. I've heard it all.
Yeah, you heard it all. That's good.
On top of conceding that you were a rude person. Can I finish my sentence now?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I know that you don't have any science acumen whatsoever. I know that. You've demonstrated that the past 2 days.
Well, that's because probably you don't understand what I'm talking about. That's why you.
Oh, right. I forgot more about science yesterday.
Unfortunately for you, my scientific acumen allowed me to make a living. So I don't know where you're coming.
And you will ever know.
Finish the sentence I started before.
You mind? Rumpus, yeah.
But what don't you... Hold on, let's just take some control, both of you. Right. So, okay, I appreciate that what QE is saying might be detrimental, but why not hear him out anyway, regardless of your feelings of his delivery? I appreciate you saying you feel he's being rude, but why not actually take in what he's got to say and try and dial that bit out if that's the only objection?
I've already heard it, and what I'm trying to explain to you guys, and I can't get through, is that the problem you have mentioned, the fact that you don't care about any scientist being focused on his own vertical. It's actually the problem of science. And if they manage to circumvent the usual fail-safes and feed us the bullshit they did, it's because they managed to compartmentalize, to verticalize, and to turn everything into an analysis. So nobody could have a synthetic approach and a synthetic view. The synthetic view is extremely important because when you don't have access to, let's say, the
you're wrong. Stop
monologuing, John. Let him
we don't need your
speech. John.
Let me finish, and then I'll listen to you. When you don't have access to the detail of the moon landing, you can tell they didn't go.
Arwen,
because if they didn't go in 1968...
Oh, right, just look. If I can give
Listen,
this...
mate.
Look, hold on, Ben. Ben. John, everybody calm down for a second. Listen, I want...
Where have you been raised? Have you been raised in any groups,
Ben. I'm trying to take control so you can have a 60-second round out, and hopefully you will, as you've said then, once you've finished, listen to the response. So hopefully uninterrupted by anybody else, if you can carry on and just round out your point.
The point is you can determine they didn't go to the moon because they did go in 68, allegedly, and they cannot go today. That's a synthetic approach. I've got no analysis to do. I haven't got to break down any problem into smaller problem and create 100,000 problem I cannot solve before taking a decision. My decision is that they didn't go to the moon because they're not able to go to the moon today. Without seeing any picture, without knowing anything. And my last example, Nathan, I bet my house, and you know it's hard to get a house in where I am. I bet my house on one thing that I haven't seen, that I've got no control on, but I can bet my house on the fact that your mom and dad slept together. Even though I didn't see it, I can bet the house on it. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, sure, but it's a non sequitur.
No, I don't know what you mean by non sequitur at this point, because
not
it's an
relevant.
example of me being able to determine with certainty something to which I have no empirical evidence, unless the fact that I'm talking to you.
Sure. Okay,
I mean?
okay, I get your point. You can make a logical inference without necessarily having any empirical
And
evidence.
it can be as right as an empirical evidence.
Okay.
And it will be
Okay. I've heard both your points. Please let there be an end. Thank you, Ben.
Okay. Yeah, both the points. Are you done?
Yes. We're all good.
I'm listening.
Okay, we're talking about science here, right? And your science acumen. You brought up the moon, your house, and Nathan's parents. I mean, I don't know. I'm sorry. This is going to be rude. Are you on medication? Right? We're talking. You said scientists, right? You said scientists were getting bogged down. No, they are pseudoscientists. That's your problem. You don't understand the difference between actual science and true, real science. You're bringing up mathematics, which isn't science. You're bringing up Nathan's parents, having him, the house. What in the world, sir?
Down, okay? You're not talking to your fucking bitch. You get it? Tone down. I'm listening.
Okay. What's the scientific method?
You didn't understand the analogy. Do you understand what an analogy is? The true example I made is an analogy to explain that you can determine with certainty a fact by a synthetic method and not only by an analytical one. Respond.
Lovely. What is the scientific method?
Oh my God, you are such a one-pony trick. Bob from Globebusters is right to get this
pony.
stuff. Because
you
are
trick
like
pony.
a monkey that
You can
found
mix
a
that
gun
up.
and you're shooting your gun in any direction. You are like a moron that's found a box of antibiotics and he pretends to be a doctor giving antibiotics to everyone,
What's
even
the
the ones that
problem?
don't deserve
Ben,
it.
why is
You
this
do not understand anything about science. And you do not come and tell me I have no scientific acumen because you went on Wikipedia for half an hour. Do you understand me?
Oh, he's a diviner too. Do you think my science comes from Wiki? How do you know that, diviner? Have you
Because you
considered
keep
carnival
repeating
as a
the same
vocation?
shit, and you clearly show that you have no acumen. You are the one that has no acumen. You are the one that is not able to think inside and outside the system. You are the one that is not able to think what
That's
modeling
interesting.
is.
That's a lot of claims right there. Can you back any of them?
I don't have to back anything because I'm not here on the basis of authority.
Show me. Let's
I'm
take
here
one
on
of
the
your
basis
claims.
of
You
what
said
I say.
all I did
and the
was go to
problem
Wiki.
is that you are not able to understand what I say. That's your problem.
Can you support that clown show?
And you don't understand it. You don't admit it.
Ben,
because on top of being a
Ben,
moron,
you're not stopping.
you are the sort of moron that never learns.
Ben, you're not pausing. You're just ranting at the moment. I don't get it. I don't understand how this descended so quickly to you immediately interrupting anybody that says anything and non-stop without taking a breath. So you've just charged John with a whole bunch of stuff. I don't understand why you do that, but you have.
Well, because his tone of voice is simply not acceptable in any conversation. Whether he says I'm right or whether he says I'm wrong. That's unacceptable.
Okay,
that he talks to me like that, as if I was
Ben, you're doing it again, Ben. You're not pausing. So, yeah, all he did was ask you what the scientific method is, and you launched into calling him a one-pony trick. So, you know, it's just... I don't understand why a simple question, what is the scientific method, would generate that response. I don't get it.
I know why.
Because he keeps repeating the same thing for the last 5 years to everyone he's got on the show, okay?
That's not.
So now he's going to ask me the scientific method, and if I don't say word by word what's written on Wikipedia, he's going to go on his high horse and he's going to say he understands science and the other one don't.
Listen to
That's
this
what
guy,
happens.
man.
What's his name? What's the name of this guy anyway? Of Mr.
You need to be institutionalized, dude.
Say again, Alwyn.
Ben, what you're explaining, it's really good. It's interesting. I can definitely go into conversation about that, and I have in the past. but it doesn't actually refute anything. It's just
I've never said I came here to refute. I'm here to adding, if I can.
There's a logic behind how
try and let
can
people
draw
speak.
conclusions. It's very useful, but it doesn't actually address scientific method. That's all. So,
can I speak now, or do somebody else?
Well, you're asking for permission to speak while somebody's still talking, Ben.
No, but he made a pose. Okay, he says this is not scientific method. That's what he said. Okay.
But we haven't established that. So generally speaking, in a discussion, when a term is drawn, and in this case we're talking specifically about science, our interpretation, yours and mine, and now someone else, a third party, John, has said, well, what is the scientific method in conversation with you? Next thing you know, it's disseminated into a string of ad homs against his credentials and understanding, and claims that he's just parroting wiki, and that if you don't give the right answer, this, that, and the other will happen. I don't get it. None of this makes any sense. When we were in a reasonably,
time he interrupts me.
When we were in a reasonably, yeah, you just totally triggered, Ben. We were in a reasonable conversation. I don't get why that particular question.
But yeah, I'm not used to people talking to me like that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but
why would that question? People just using that tone of voice with me. I'm not used to it. Sorry.
Why
Never will
you
be.
just address that then, instead of basically making up weird
Yes,
accusations
I know,
about
but honestly,
the reliability of
like,
his sources? Why did you do that? Why didn't you just tell him, "Shut up, John! Stop interrupting me like a rumpus"? I do it.
He didn't hear you, when he was over talking you.
Yeah, he's a bit too triggered. This might be an opportunity for me to thank the audience in the Nathan Oakley 1980 stream and say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live panel for making this live and after show possible. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!